Welcome to hour number 3, live right here on this Monday on the early line on SportsGrid and all across that SportsGrid network. Our third and final hour here on TEL. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. A big week around the National Football League. The league year officially beginning on Wednesday afternoon, noon Eastern time today. Officially, clubs can start making contact with free agents around the NFL. The burner phones, though, have been working over the weekend in the non-tampering period. All of that said very much in air quotes. Some new news out of the NFL on this Monday morning as well. And then we will set the stage for tonight in the NBA, conference tournaments during conference championship week in men's college basketball. Now just 6 days away from Selection Sunday. DRS one final hour, but a jam-packed hour. I hope to be here for all of it.
No, and you will be here for all of it. We're going to have a great time here. And again, the NFL firing it up here with tampering here, which you cannot sign until Wednesday, but teams can agree to deals. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know why they do it, but an extra 2 days here so we get to talk about the NFL, I'll certainly take that. But also keep in mind, we are it's the 11th of the month. Did you know in under 2 weeks, we are going to have the official start to Major League Baseball season, and then away we go into the month of April. There are so many good things to look forward to, which includes Conference Championship Week, and the one thing that we love, Ben, it's afternoon college basketball during the week, which we're going to get this week with teams hoping to punch their tickets into the tournament. Love this stuff.
Some spots in the big dance on the line tonight. We'll detail those in just a little bit. First, we welcome in our SportsGrid radio audience here to our third and final hour. Sirius XM Channel 159. All of our radio terrestrial affiliates now in the fold as well. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. A big day in the National Football League offseason calendar. Officially at noon Eastern time, all 32 NFL franchises can make contact with potential free agents around the NFL. They probably already have made contact, but officially, as we say. And you can't sign the dotted line officially until the league year starts on Wednesday afternoon. But we'll get those news updates of what the contract facts and figures look like around the NFL. We already have over the weekend Russell Wilson, now a Pittsburgh Steeler. Baker Mayfield returns to Tampa on a big money deal. Mac Jones traded from New England to Jacksonville. Some news this morning for the Jags, by the way. It was a big cut day in Western New York. Buffalo slashing its roster last week, including the longtime staple of that offensive line, center Mitch Morse, one of the best centers around the NFL with veteran experience. He's making his way to Duval County to anchor that offensive line, which Trevor Lawrence desperately needs. Big move there for Jacksonville. But Donnie, let's look at the Super Bowl 59 odds before we dive in to free agency. 5-1 San Francisco, a very short number on the 49ers, $1.50 in front of Kansas City. The Chiefs, of course, the two-time reigning Super Bowl champions around the National Football League. The Ravens, the only other team with a three-digit price at 9-1. Bills 12-1, Cowboys and Lions 13-1, Bengals 15-1, Eagles 17-1. The Dolphins and the Packers at a 21-1 number and a 22-1 number, respectively, round out the top 10 as we look forward to 2024 in the National Football League.
And what is interesting here is free agency is on deck here. We're anticipating big moves to be made, but one of the bigger moves to be made basically was the Buffalo Bills chopping their roster down. But it doesn't look like anybody's panicking in that, as you still see at the FanDuel Sportsbook, a 12-1 price for the Buffalo Bills to win the championship here, because the core is still going to be intact, and we're anticipating maybe making moves to the benefit of that Bills team as opposed to shredding guys there. But also, you take a look at the 49ers, 5-1 price. We haven't really heard all that much of the whispers of maybe a big move coming here. The only thing that we do know about the San Francisco 49ers is Brandon Ayuk unhappy with his contract, a little bit of, a tough scene after the Super Bowl. I should have got the ball more. Usually those things work their way out, but we haven't seen a lot of movement here. Maybe we do, Ben, over the next 3 days where we might see some things that we didn't expect to see. And also, more importantly, moving forward, who are some of these players that are actually going to get signed to change these said teams? We have a good idea. Unless quarterbacks are on the move in a major way, which is like, where's Kirk Cousins going to be? These numbers will be pretty flat here until we get to training camp and maybe see some injuries, and away we go.
Which of these players potentially out there on the free agency circles could move the market? Number one is the quarterback Kirk Cousins. Where is he going to go? A lot of steam around that team in Atlanta, Georgia. The running back position has names that you know very, very well. How much will they move a number or change the outlook of a specific NFL franchise? That is a different question. But guys like Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler, Tony Pollard, DeAndre Swift, all available for hire. Could a big-name wide receiver like a Calvin Ridley maybe make a move somewhere else? Could Kansas City be in the market for a new wide receiver? And a guy that was the anchor in that blindside blocker for a long time in Dallas, Tyron Smith, one of the best offensive tackles still in this sport. He is available on the market as well.
Yeah, and those trade markets also going to heat up also. You take a look at the Los Angeles Chargers. We're getting out for them, Ben. How about this? Harbaugh making phone calls here for both Keenan Allen and also Mike Williams. So there are a lot of players that are going to be available with a lot of cap space for a lot of teams. We'll see how it shakes out. But most notably, I'm interested to see the running back position starting today and what happens, because I don't have a great feel in this other than it feels like Saquon Barkley is going to be getting hits from around the league, and rightfully so. He's probably the best of the bunch there. But how much are we looking to pay him? If it starts at 10, not 1 year, Ben, $10 million a year, he's not signing a 2-year deal for $16 million. He's probably going to get a nice deal, but does that come right out of the break? And also, does that shape the market for running backs? Because two thoughts I had were running backs might move quickly, but also some of these guys might not move until after the draft, which is still roughly 2 months away at this point. So I'm looking forward to that running back position today to see if we get any hits right away.
So we just got some news, by the way, from Adam Schefter. We saw 9 guys around the NFL placed under either the franchise or transition tag. ESPN's Adam Schefter sharing that after the Bengals placed the franchise tag on T. Higgins, he has officially requested the trade. It goes on to say Higgins loves Cincinnati and hoped to be with the team long term, but is disappointed about the team, has not had any talks about a long-term contract extension since March of this past year. He's ready to move on. Is it a true trade request, or is he trying to up the ante for Cincinnati? That remains to be seen. Donnie, what is your reaction to that breaking news? Do you think the Bengals and T. Higgins are about to part ways?
Do you remember our initial conversation when we saw that tag was going on T. Higgins? That's a bad sign for the wide receiver, because they don't have any intention of paying him long-term, knowing of what Jamar Chase is going to afford them. So if you're a wide receiver like T. Higgins, knowing that if you hit the free agent market, you're going to absolutely ring that cash register, he's upset there. They don't have any intention of paying him, and it's more likely, as we said, he would be playing for another team than the Cincinnati Bengals, even though, Ben, he got the tag back a couple weeks ago. He gone.
Let's not forget, just because you're placed under the franchise tag does not mean that you cannot be traded elsewhere for teams that were interested. Then they probably have to renegotiate a long-term deal. Conference championship week next in college basketball.
The Bostonian versus the book.
In the Big Ten, it's the same thing. No offense to you guys. This feels like the Penn State rule. This feels like this is the guaranteed Penn State to get in.
We need to find a way to let them in, because they can't beat Michigan. They can't beat Ohio State. But if we make them a third,
they get in.
This
is the Penn State
rule. Be better than the West half.
Yep.
That 1 year that Lightning in a Bottle catches on the West half, we'll let them in too, because they'll bring people.
The Bostonian versus the book.
The books are treating the Celtics 4 points better at minimum than maybe every single team in the NBA. And so far, I believe they've covered every game since the break.
The Celtics' strict goal here, anything less than a finals appearance and a finals championship is going to be a failure for the Celtics. They got all the pressure in the world across the board here.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Monday on the early line. Now it is conference championship week everywhere at the D1 level in men's college basketball. Regular season last week, regular season finales across the sport this weekend, despite some conference tournaments already underway. 4 spots have been booked to the NCAA tournament at this moment. 2 more on the line tonight. In the Sun Belt Conference championship game, it is James Madison and Arkansas State. A SoCon showdown with a spot in the big dance on the line. The 1 seed in the tournament, Samford takes on East Tennessee State. Everything comes down to the wire on this Monday. Also some semifinal action, including in the West Coast Conference WCC. Gonzaga takes on San Francisco. They're an 8.5-point favorite. St. Mary's lays 9.5 against Santa Clara. With how the bracket works in the WCC, this was the expected outcome. Showdowns tonight out in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and we got 2 good games out there, too, so it'll be really exciting to watch it play out. But this is, again, what I like. At least the West Coast Conference, unlike a lot of conferences, and again, they give buys and sometimes double buys, really reward your top 2 teams for a great performance in the regular season. Because also, if you do have those 2 top teams, they were the best teams during the regular season. Wouldn't we love to see them matched up in the final once again? It looks like we are on a collision course to do that. And I would be surprised, Ben, if both of those teams, St. Mary's and Gonzaga, don't wind up in the WCC final.
It is really interesting because how the bracket works, Gonzaga's had a long layoff. Their regular season finale was last Saturday night in Moraga against St. Mary's. The Zags won outright as a 3.5-point dog, make that 8 straight. They also played USF inside the Chase Center, technically a semi-away or a neutral floor game, but 2 quad 1 wins for the Zags, bolstering that NCAA tournament resume. Gonzaga will go dancing once again. They lay 8.5 tonight against the Dons of San Francisco, a very stout team in WCC action so far this season. St. Mary's laying 9.5 against Santa Clara. The Gales won the regular season crown in the WCC. Now, Gonzaga won 8 straight to end out the regular season, over in 5 of those 8 games, including over 153 against the Dons of San Francisco just about a week and a half ago. Gonzaga has been a very stout team here, DRS, down the stretch, but I wonder how much the age-old rest versus rust debate nips at the heels of the Zags, maybe a slow start tonight against the Dons.
Yeah, it could happen there. And also looking forward to the tournament itself, right? This is actually kind of nice because both of these teams, the top two seeds in the West Coast Conference, haven't played yet. So if they pick up victories, they won't go into that final game. It's like, oh, we're a little bit rusty. You'd have played a game on that neutral court, then you can match up against each other. But you do bring up a great question here because it's not exactly the rust that you worry about. It's the team that maybe is rolling and has played a couple games before they actually meet you in that same building here. That's what's interesting because if you had a West Coast Conference tournament, Ben, that said, okay, lower level teams, you play your home gyms, then we'll meet in Vegas for like the semifinals here and into the finals. That's not the case. So you have teams that in the hotel, in that routine, practice at a certain amount of day, film at a certain amount of day, work out at this time, then play, and they've done well. They're used to that routine. So you're right. If you're looking to try to say to yourself, is there going to be upset in the making of the teams looking to try to knock off St. Mary's and also Gonzaga? That's not the one I want to look for. I want to look for the first half here because forget about the tired legs. You should have a little bit of an advantage of playing those games in that gym already. So who cares about what happens in the second half? Quite frankly, Ben, if those teams aren't winning at the half or covering at the half, they're probably not going to win or cover that game. Take those teams if you think there's going to be an upset in the West Coast Conference in the first half of this game tonight.
136.5, by the way, the total for the Gales against Santa Clara. St. Mary's, fifth slowest tempo in all of college basketball. Santa Clara, though, on the other side, third fastest tempo out of the WCC. Again, Gonzaga has started to stack it up a little bit in terms of what their offense is capable of. I would look at a team total, perhaps, for the Zags tonight against the Dons of San Francisco. 8.5-point spread, 11:30 p.m. Eastern time tip out in Las Vegas. 148.5 is that over-under. That is semifinal action, setting up a final later this week in the WCC tournament out in Vegas. Two spots for the big dance on the line and at stake tonight. James Madison was one of the stories of the early going of this college basketball season. Opening night of the year in East Lansing against Michigan State, who was ranked fourth in the preseason AP Top 25. The Dukes upset the Spartans outright inside the Breslin Center. And despite all of that, in two quad one games, the JMU won one of those two. The metrics are not all that favorable for James Madison for an at-large opportunity. Looking for the auto bid tonight with a victory in the Sun Belt Conference Championship game against Arkansas State. Laying 4.5. That is what JMU is doing against Arkansas State. DRS for the belt tonight in the Sun Belt. Who goes home a champion?
We're expecting points tonight. Should be a great game. You take a look at JMU on defense in the conference, number 2 overall in efficiency. You take a look at their offense, number 2 overall in efficiency. This is a well-rounded team. But here's what makes it interesting here. Arkansas State comes into the game. There are 14 teams in the Sun Belt. They're 12th in efficiency on defense. So right away, that doesn't stack up all that well. The one interesting caveat here to Arkansas State's defense is they're worst in conference play at defending the three-point line, giving up 37% from three-point range. But they're number 1 in conference play at chasing you off of the three-point line. So if we're talking about Arkansas State here, one in the hang around of possibly punching their ticket into March Madness with that automatic bid, they're number 1 in conference play at offensive efficiency, which means they love the three-point shot. And I just told you, Ben, 14 teams in conference play. 10th in conference play at chasing you off of the line is JMU. Number 1 in conference play at volume from the three-point line is Arkansas State. You know I love to fall in love with stuff like that. Even though you have a great basketball team with JMU, they should win in advance. But I got to tell you, on a neutral site here, I'm going to take this. I'll take the 6.5 points because the three-point shot is the ultimate equalizer. One team shoots it well. The other team will let you shoot it. I'm going to live and die with Arkansas State from the three-point line.
When you look at JMU, line open at 4.5, down 5.5 in favor of the Dukes. That total 153.5. James Madison did win against the Red Wolves in a road game at Arkansas State just about a month ago. They laid 4.5 in that game. They only won by 4. JMU as a single-digit favorite in Sun Belt action 6 times so far this season. 4-2 straight up. 3-3 against the spread. Can Samford bring it home tonight in the SoCon? The number 1 seed in the conference tournament, looking for a spot in the big dance. A 10.5-point favorite against the 7 seed East Tennessee State. The over-under 149 and a hook.
And not really too much of a favorite for me here, or should I say a side that I like here. Minus 10.5, we're taking a look at a better basketball team, no doubt. But by the way, East Tennessee State last week cashed in a team total for me, Ben. So sometimes you try to say, hey, be good. Can they do it one more time? But I think the numbers go in one direction. They should win this game. But if I'm looking at a game where I wanted to match it up like Arkansas State, I have a side that I like taking the points here. I don't have it in this one here. So good luck in this game to whoever's wagering on that one. But for me, looking at the numbers, it's not beneficial for me to take the dog in this game and or the favorite. So I'll sit that one out and see who punches what.
So far in the SoCon tournament, Samford has won and covered as a single-digit favorite in both, over in both. We got a little bit of tempo out of East Tennessee State. Over in 6 of their last 7. They've won 5 straight. They have covered in every one of those victories. On the women's side, Big East tournament title between UConn and Georgetown. Yesterday, UConn held Marquette to 29 points to get to the conference tournament title game. We know about Gino Auriemma's Huskies, but if you allow me for just a moment, Georgetown lost their head coach, passing away from cancer before the season got started in October. Tasha Butts. Georgetown was picked 10th out of 11 teams in the Big East before the season got underway. They are into the conference championship game. It is a great story for the Hoyas. No odds out just yet for this matchup. Connecticut is going to be a hefty favorite. They have been dominant this year, but we celebrate these moments in the month of March. Prop perspective for this Monday with Tom Vecchio up next.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
In the Big Ten, it's the same thing. No offense to you guys. This feels like the Penn State rule. This feels like this is a guaranteed Penn State to get in.
We need to find a way to let them in because they can't beat Michigan. They can't beat Ohio State. But if we make them a third,
they get in.
This
is the Penn State rule.
Be better than the West half.
Yep.
And that 1 year that Lightning in a Bottle catches on the West half, we'll let them in too because they'll bring people.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
The books are treating the Celtics 4 points better at minimum than maybe every single team in the NBA. And so far, I believe they've covered every game since the break.
The Celtics' strict goal here, anything less than a finals appearance and a finals championship is going to be a failure for the Celtics. They got all the pressure in the world across the board here.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The prop perspective for you on this Monday night. We have a hefty slate around the association. Some action on the ice in the jack of all trades. It is FanDuel's Tom Vecchio joining us here on this Monday on TEL. Vecchio, as always, we look forward to the prop perspective, diving through the slate with some picks and plays for this Monday.
Yeah, thanks for having me. NHL and NBA today. Before you know it, we'll be adding MLB into the mix just a few weeks away. I'm ready to go.
We got 6 games around the association on this Monday. We've got some thoughts on each and every one. Play-in teams in that postseason push down the home stretch of this NBA campaign. Inside the United Center tonight, the Bulls a 4-point home underdog against the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavs have won 2 straight games. The Mavs are a game behind Phoenix for what would be the 6th spot in the Western Conference out of the play-in tournament. Currently, Dallas in the 8th spot. Chicago pretty firmly in the 9th seed area of the Eastern Conference. They're going to be a play-in tournament team. Luka Doncic has been otherworldly. What does that mean for this matchup between the Mavericks and the Bulls tonight?
I think Luka is going to continue to do his thing. And like you said, it's crunch time for a lot of these teams in this 6 to 10 range in both conferences. You know, just looking at this game overall, I expect the Mavs to win. They're the favorites. They're the better team. I think we'd all agree with that. And Luka's putting up all these numbers. So, realistically, what happens when the Mavs win? Well, it's because Luka's doing his normal thing, going out there, putting up a double-double, if not a triple-double. So my favorite way to approach this game is the player performance doubles market, or the player performance market, whatever you want to call it. Luka double-double plus Mavs win is minus 118. That's obviously significantly better than the money line, which is minus 180, minus 190, wherever it might be. He was also messing around with a little same-game parlay of getting a Luka triple-double with the Mavs winning. You can get that at plus 270, plus 300, because realistically, they're winning, and Luka's just on this tear of production where let's try and extract the most value out of this game that we possibly can.
Handicapping these scenarios here, Tom, always fascinating to me because I always like to ride the hot hand, particularly in the NBA. You take a look at that triple-double market here. He's got 6 straight games with 30-plus point triple-doubles, which is outrageous at this point. And the one thing we do know is now he feels that need. He has to gun for another one. Do you usually take players in this environment, or do you fade players in this environment based on the price point there at a plus 175 to get another triple-double?
It's really not about the streak that they're on. I'm thinking about this, the Mavs need to win. So regardless if he has 3 straight, 4 straight, 10 straight, he has to be out there for 35-plus wins. They're an okay team, realistically. They wouldn't be in this spot if it wasn't for Luka. If he wasn't on this team, they're going to be fighting for the 10th seed. So, he has to have a triple-double, basically, for them. And even when he has triple-doubles, they're losing games. So, triple-double, Luka, they win. Luka having to do his normal thing is, that's what needs to happen tonight.
Yeah, it's more about that playoff positioning for Dallas. Again, a full game back of the 6th spot. That is what Phoenix currently occupies in the Western Conference standings, trying to get out of the play-in tournament. By the way, 33.5, the points prop for Luka Doncic, a number he has been over in all 5 of those 30-point triple-doubles here in the month of March. He is the only player in NBA history to have 6 straight 30-plus point triple-doubles. Again, what the guy is doing is outlandish. Next, we go to the Mile High City, where Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets will host the Toronto Raptors tonight. A 26-6 outright record, Vecchio, at altitude for Denver this year, and it shows in the spread. They're laying 14.5. What's the breakdown for this matchup between the Raptors and the Nuggets?
A part of me wants to take Jokic unders just because a 14.5-point spread indicates he probably doesn't have to play in the fourth quarter. I think there's a spot where you can get Jokic unders and maybe he still hits triple-double in 3 quarters. However, my favorite spot to go is probably Emmanuel Quickly on the other side, just because he's playing a ton of minutes. Scotty Barnes is done for the year. RJ Barrett is listed as questionable. That starting lineup is frankly not good. It should be Quickly, Ochai Agbaji, Kelly Olynyk. That lineup doesn't bring a whole lot, so it should really just be Quickly doing his thing, and there's no reason for him to not be out there for 35 or 38 minutes, taking the majority of the shots, because those players are out. So, the Nuggets take their foot off the gas a little bit, and they still win this game. They still cover, and the Raptors just pile up some points at the end. It's probably the best way to go about it.
Award season here in the NBA. Well, certainly last night was award season with the Oscars. Heavy favorite Oppenheimer takes down Best Picture. How about this? Nikola Jokic, heavy favorite here to -170 price, followed by SGA at +250, and Luka Doncic at a 7-1 price. Let me ask you this, Tom, because Nikola Jokic, far and away right now, is the favorite. Luka Doncic is going on a historic run now. Is there any chance that Luka can do something so historic over the final 20 games that he can edge closer to get the Jokic, or is it just Jokic who's going to win the award because he's the best player and that's just the way it is?
Yeah, it's probably Jokic's award to lose at this point. And, I have a position on Tatum at a couple spots earlier in the season. I have him at 50-1 just because they're the best team in the league and he's doing a tremendous amount. But it would require a whole lot from Luka to 15 of the next 20 games he has to have triple doubles, something absurd. And it really just comes down to Jokic being amazing, doing everything that he's doing. I hate to say it, but he's probably had this locked up the second Embiid was announced out and whenever that was. That's realistically what it comes down to. I hate it because I have Tatum, but it's probably just Jokic at this point.
Luka Doncic has made NBA history. He is the only player in the history of the association with 6 straight games of a 30-point triple-double, and he can't even really cut into that advantage from the odds perspective, of which the Joker maintains -170. Doesn't even have the second best price. That's still Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for Oklahoma City. The Thunder, the best record in the Western Conference. Best team in all of the NBA, that's the Boston Celtics. On the road late night tonight up in the Rose City against Portland. A 9.5-point spread in favor of the C's. How do you preview the matchup out in Portland?
Well, this one's certainly tough to preview because Porzingis is out. Brown, Tatum, Holiday, and Derek White are all listed as questionable. 4 of their starters are all listed as questionable. So my favorite spots to go is going to be Al Horford rebounding props, plus any of those starters, if they have 2 of them in, 3 of them, whatever it might be, some combination of points plus rebounds for Brown if Tatum's out, or points plus assists for Holiday if some of the other players are out. So it's just a wait and see, but Horford's probably the safest option as of now.
Get ready, party people. Tonight, Tom Vecchio, we're taking a look at the Phoenix Suns and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Why do you want to party? The overnight line, -1 is a favorite at the FanDuel Sportsbook to the Phoenix Suns. The current line here, -6 as we look at the anticipated starting lineup. Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Grayson Allen, Kevin Durant, Yusuf Nurkic. Could we get Booker back with a big victory for the Suns? And away they go down the stretches, maybe being one of the better teams in the Western Conference. What are we looking at tonight from the Suns Cavs, Tom?
Yeah, Booker expected back tonight. Little lack of lines posted for this game. Jared Allen for the Cavs has to have a big game on the glass if the Cavs are going to not only bounce back after a bad loss yesterday against the Nets. If he doesn't have a big game, he's going to be out-rebounded by Nurkic, Durant, and Drew Eubanks coming off the bench. Evan Mobley's not playing. If he doesn't have a big game, the Suns probably cover and win this outright, going away. So it's all about Jared Allen tonight. He needs to have a big game along with Garland and probably Karis LeVert as well.
When you look at the numbers for Phoenix, they have gone under in 10 straight games. They have not covered as a favorite since their second game after the All-Star break, but that's just where things stack up for the Suns. That's a strong Suns line at the moment. 6 points in favor of Phoenix, albeit on the road in the land against the Cavaliers. Steph Curry officially diagnosed with a right ankle sprain by Golden State. He will be reevaluated tomorrow. They don't expect it to be a long-term absence for the Chef, but he will miss tonight's game in San Antonio against the Spurs. The Dubs still booked as a 4.5-point favorite. Tom, with your prop perspective, what is the prop approach for Golden State without Stephen Curry?
That's going to the backup point guard of Chris Paul, CP3, over 19.5 points plus assist. They're sitting in the 10th seed right now, so another team. It's crunch time. He has to be out there. His minutes are trending up over the past few games. Curry is out. This is a great matchup with 2 teams in the top 8 of the league in offensive pace. He's put up 10-9 and 15-5 when it comes to points and assists over the past few games. This is a very clear spot for no matter what their starting lineup is going to be. Chris Paul has to be out there facilitating the offense in a very easy matchup against the Spurs. They need to be winning this game and trying to keep things as simple as possible. No Steph Curry. It's about CP3 tonight.
Monday night on the ice, let's switch it over here. A metropolitan matchup between the Devils and the Rangers, showing the Rangers at home in the Garden at a -154 price and a total that's listed at 6.5. Are we getting goals tonight? And the favored Rangers going to be able to win this one?
Yeah, we should be seeing plenty of goals. As much of a rivalry as this is, the Devils have kind of slipped, and they sold off a few players at the deadline. So I'm expecting actually a good amount of goals tonight. If this was a little bit of a different story, I would say hammer the under if the teams are super close in the standings, but that's not the case. So I'm actually expecting a ton of points, and I like Artemi Panarin for one power play point at plus 140. 35 of his 87 points are on the power play this year. That's just under 40%. He has 6 power play points over his last 10, and it's a power play point. We don't care if it's a goal or an assist against the Devils, who, again, they are struggling on defense. It doesn't matter if Jake Allen is going to be in net, their newly acquired goaltender. It's simply not a good defense for the Devils, and the Rangers are flying on offense right now.
So, Vecchio, when you speak about the trade deadline, the Devils making some selling moves toward that deadline, but in the home stretch of this NHL season, we see 6 teams right now at a 10-1 number or less to win Lord Stanley's Cup. What is your assessment of the National Hockey League following that trade deadline?
It's going to be one of those top teams, not the Oilers, not the Leafs. I think the Jets are an amazing defensive team, but they have a very lack of offense. The Stars made great moves. The Avalanche made great moves. I'm going to stick with my pick from the preseason, which is the Dallas Stars. They have a tremendous forward group. Jake Oettinger is amazing in net. They picked up Chris Tanev slightly before the deadline, and they have a super deep defense. They have everything they need to do to win the Stanley Cup. It's about getting past the Avs probably in the second round, which is going to be their biggest test.
A 10-1 number for the Stars right now. That is the 4th best price out of the Western Conference to win a Stanley Cup. Tom Vecchio, the jack of all trades, we appreciate your prop perspective on this Monday. As always, thank you for joining us. We go hardwood handicaps up next year on the early line.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
In the Big Ten, it's the same thing. No offense to you guys. This feels like the Penn State rule. This feels like this is the guaranteed Penn State to get in.
We need to find a way to let them in because they can't beat Michigan. They can't beat Ohio State. But if we make them a third,
they get in. This is
they're
the Penn
always
State
going to
rule.
be better than the West half.
Yep.
That 1 year that Lightning in a Bottle catches on the West half, we'll let them in too because they'll bring people.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
The books are treating the Celtics 4 points better at minimum than maybe every single team in the NBA. And so far, I believe they've covered every game since the break.
The Celtics' strict goal here, anything less than a finals appearance and a finals championship is going to be a failure for the Celtics. They got all the pressure in the world across the board here.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Laying points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats and fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games.
I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the early line, the two premier NBA handicappers are with you, and maybe even some bonus thoughts on conference championship week in men's college basketball. At least the best bet from me. I'm already locked in on that SoCon tournament title game tonight. He is Donnie Rightside. I am Ben Stevens. 6-game slate on this Monday evening around the association. I think the marquee matchup, DRS, out in Cleveland. The Cavs' third best record in the Eastern Conference, only a half game behind Milwaukee for that 2-3 split at this moment. But Cleveland, a hefty home underdog tonight. They're getting 6 points as the Suns are laying 6 points because the big three for the boys from the Valley should be in action. That means all three of Kevin Durant, Devin Booker making his return, and Bradley Beal. How do you factor that into the handicap tonight in the land?
You know, we're going to be factored in as the Suns should be winning this basketball game. And quite frankly, as we pointed out on the last segment with Tom Vecchio, this line opened up as a -1 point favorite for the Suns and completely swung over to a 6-point favorite. Why? Yeah. Spider Mitchell looks like he's not going to be coming back to the lineup tonight for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And you are getting Bradley Beal back. If he is effective and healthy, I don't see how you keep up with that offense for the Phoenix Suns for the Cleveland Cavaliers unless you get another Dean Wade game, which would be 2 of those in the past 2 weeks. And I don't think that's going to happen. However, you see that total, Ben? Opened up 225.5. It's crashed down to 220.5. Maybe an over is the way to do it because if you want the Suns to score points, maybe the Cleveland Cavaliers can chase them down. Instead of laying that big number of 6 points, we got to get over 220.5, don't we? Don't we?
You got me. You got me. I was thinking about betting it despite seeing that market movement, but thinking maybe the reverse of that thought at 220 in a hook. That is an absence of Spider Mitchell. But the Suns have also gone under in 10 consecutive games. Some of that, though, has not featured Devin Booker. A lot of that has not featured a fully healthy big three. Now, Phoenix is playing better defense. That's what we see here as we get closer to the playoffs in the NBA. But I might work against the market movement, a reverse thought, if you will, over 220.5. You got me. I was thinking about it, and now you have me. For the Suns, laying 6, a big number. Phoenix has not been a good cover team all year long, just 18, 27, and 2 against the spread. By the way, the Cavs have gone over in 2 straight as the defenses looked a little bit susceptible as well. I like the over tonight of 220.5 with that reverse market movement thought. Again, as we shared with Tom Vecchio, Luka Doncic looked to continue the heater. The Mavericks right now, a full game behind Phoenix in those Western Conference standings. The Suns in the 6th spot, 37-27. The Mavericks in the 8th spot, 36-28. The Kings in front of Dallas by a half game. The Kings a half game behind then the Phoenix Suns. A big one for the Mavs, a road favorite tonight in Chicago against the Bulls. Dallas laying 4.
Yeah, take a look at the anticipated starting lineups tonight in this matchup. You're going to get the 2 superstars there for the Mavericks. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving look like they're going to be fine for this game. Take a look at the Chicago Bulls starting lineup there. Kobe White, Dosunmu, Caruso, DeRozan, and Vucevic in that starting lineup tonight. So I look at this number, too. The one thing we do know is the Dallas Mavericks, very potent on offense, but not a great defensive team. But also, you take a look at the Chicago Bulls primarily as not a great offensive team because of the slower tempo. I actually like this, though, and I agree with this line movement. Open up at 232 and up to 233. I like the over in this game, and I do think the Dallas Mavericks are the right side of this one. And we just had Tom Vecchio on. I love streaks. I love riding the hot hand. Like Luka Doncic is a superstar, 25 years old, an amazing talent here. He's had triple-doubles over his past few games. So he's not coming into this game going, hey, Ben, now's the game where I'm going to look to get a couple steals, get a couple rebounds, and be a facilitator, but I don't want to score that many points. Stop the man this year. He's going to try to run this game up the flagpole. Give me the over in this game more than the Dallas Mavericks I like as a side.
I thought Vecchio had some great points about a player performance double. Luka Doncic to record a double-double, not a triple-double, though he's had 6 consecutive games of a 30-point triple-double, and Dallas just to win outright, minus 120. I'm trying to find a Luka Doncic 30-plus points. They're giving you 35-plus points, and Dallas to win at plus 196. Now, we showed you his prop board last segment. He has averaged nearly 36 points per game in this 6-game streak of 30-point triple-doubles. The first game of the 6-game streak, he scored 30. Every other game, he has scored 35. I think if you were going to attack the prop market, I would actually look at the points to the over or just plus 175 to make it 7 straight triple-doubles. That doesn't have to be a 30-point triple-double for Dallas. But I would look to the Mavs, who entered the All-Star break, the hottest team in the Western Conference. They won 6 straight. They won their first game after. They covered in 6 of 7. They've only won 3 games since the All-Star break, but they have covered in all 3. Boston on the road tonight. No props out for any side in this game just yet. The Celtics, though, laying 9.5 now. That's the updated current line on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Over under 217 as the Celtics travel to Portland.
Yeah, opened up as a 13.5-point road favorite here for the Boston Celtics, as you saw that number posted on the graphic. We have had one of those lines that's bouncing back and forth, which probably means if that number was 7 to 7.5 up to 9.5, we're getting some good vibes there from Boston that most of their starting lineup is probably going to be intact tonight. But if they're not, where do we actually go in this game? Because look at the total. 218.5 down to 217 even for a Boston Celtics game. We know the Portland Trailblazers aren't going to play any defense, but if you're going to get a G League-style team, in essence, like the Philadelphia 76ers and the New York Knicks ran out last night, you don't really get a lot of points here because why? You don't have the ease of scoring that you would have with, let's just say, a Jason Tatum and a Jaylen Brown and a Kristaps Porzingis on the court. But for my money here, I'm waiting. I want to see what that starting lineup is because the one thing we know is if you could pick the blowout victories for the Boston Celtics, why it's important is that means Peyton Pritchard probably gets 25 extra minutes in that game, and he loves to go off. So returning back to the Pacific Northwest, maybe this is a Peyton Pritchard type name here, game here, I should say. But we won't know here, Ben, until we get the starting lineups out of here. But if we're running low on all-star talent for the Celtics, give me Pritchard in this game. Come on now.
Of course, the Celtics had their 11-game win streak snapped last week by that Dean Wade game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then they lost to the Denver Nuggets in their game after that on Thursday night. But then they bounced back with a win over Phoenix. They covered as a 5-point favorite. In the final 5 games of that 11-game win streak, or 6 games, the Celtics covered in all 6. They covered in their most recent win. I actually believe the Celtics are the right side, laying 9.5 in this game. But what I like is the over of 217. Portland's last 6 games in the month of March, they've won 3, they've lost 3. They've covered in 5 of 6. They have gone over in 5 of 6 and 4 straight. I think we will see some offense from Boston against a bad Trailblazers team who actually might keep this game a little bit tighter than we expect. Even with that 9.5-point spread, I don't think they get blown out by 20+. I like the over tonight of 217. Obviously, a lot of that can change by the time we get to tip tonight in a little bit less than 12 hours in the Rose City, depending on roster availability for Boston. At altitude, the advantage is always there for the Nuggets. 26-6 straight up this year at home. Denver laying 14.5 tonight against Toronto in the Mile High City.
Yeah, we're looking at injuries here, and that's why we have this monster number. Now, we know how good the Denver Nuggets are at home. There's no question about it, but take a look at the starting lineup. Quickly, Trent Jr., Agbaji, Barrett, and Olenek looks like to be the starting lineup here for the Toronto Raptors. This line opened up at a 13.5-point number. That is now sitting at a 14.5, so roughly 2 touchdowns as a favorite here for the home team Denver Nuggets. At 225.5, how about this? A 6-point line move, Ben, to the over, up to 231.5. So people thinking we're getting points tonight. It's hard to gauge this because in the NBA, what do you look at for this? It's like, okay, they're up 20 points, they pull their starters, and the Raptors come back. Well, the Raptors probably pull their starters at this point. I usually don't do this, and it's a heavy public favorite on the Raptors right now at the FanDuel Sportsbook, taking those 14.5 points. I'm going to lay the 14.5 points with the Nuggets tonight because why? Toronto, hey, can we make the playoffs? Can we do some that? Who knows about them? We're focused on the Nuggets here. Every single game, they got to be locked in because they can smell that number 1 seed right now with about 20 games to play. I look for a big effort in elevation against a weak Raptors team. Give me a 20-point victory tonight by the Nuggets.
Love calling your shot there, DRS. The last of a 4-game home streak for Denver before a 4-game road trip for the Nuggets. And they have won their last 2 home games. They have covered in each of those last 2, including as a 12.5-point favorite over the weekend. Now, when you look at the Nuggets this year, a favorite in all 32 home games. They have won 26 outright. They are 15-2 against the spread in those games. Now, as we go to San Antonio, no Stephen Curry tonight for the Golden State Warriors, officially diagnosed with a right ankle sprain. Reevaluation time tomorrow for the Chef. They do not expect it to be a long-term injury, and Golden State can't afford it. Trying to move up the ranks in the play-in tournament seeding, maybe get out, maybe just at least play in the 7-8 game. Golden State laying 4.5 on the road tonight against San Antonio, over under 227 and a hook.
Line opened up at 6, is now down to 4.5. Obviously, we know that some superstar players not going to be in the lineup for the Golden State Warriors. Total opened up at 229.5, Ben, now down to 227.5. But if we're looking at that San Antonio Spurs anticipated lineup tonight, Trey Jones, Vassell, Champagnie, Sohan, and Victor Wembanyama back tonight after a few game absence here. That should be big tonight. Even if Steph is out, I still think we get a pretty good pace of play because the Spurs don't like to play any defense. They'll get out and run. 227.5. I think we get that tonight. I think they're going over the total. I don't know if I want to lay that number with Golden State on the road, even though the Spurs aren't a great team here. So let's just go with the total in this game, see if we get some tempo.
Now, Golden State is 13-6 since February began. They were 4 games below 500 entering the month of February. In all 13 wins, they have covered the number. They've dropped 2 straight, but in all 13 victories, they cover. If you think the Warriors, even without Stephen Curry, cover or win outright tonight, maybe laying 4.5, not the worst approach. Now, this is not exactly the most glamorous matchup on the NBA docket, even with only 6 games. Detroit at home tonight against Charlotte. The Hornets are 16-48, third worst record in the Eastern Conference. The Pistons, the worst record once again in the NBA at 10-53. Now, Detroit has only been a favorite 5 times this year. They lay 4.5 at home tonight. The Pistons just 1-4 against the number as a favorite, but Detroit has covered in 17 of its last 25 games. Am I going to lay the number with Detroit tonight? I think I just might do that.
And by the way, hitting the gas pedal here is the Washington Wizards with 2 straight victories. Like, what are you guys doing here? With the Pistons now sit with 10 wins and the worst record in the NBA. But we also saw this on, I believe it was a Friday night matchup, where at home the Wizards were favored. I'm like, you got to be kidding me here. The Wizards favored against anybody. How can you do that? The Wizards ended up winning that game. So if you're just reading lines for a Detroit Pistons team that technically doesn't want to win this game, and the odds makers are telling you, trust me, they're going to win this game, I got to ride with the odds makers tonight. The worst team in basketball is favored at home, and not just to win the game here, but to win by at least 5 points. I'll fall into the trap. I'll lay the 4.5 points here with the Detroit Pistons tonight over those Hornets.
Listen, the Wizards have been eliminated from playoff contention. Same with San Antonio. We're talking about right now Charlotte, Washington, Detroit, and the Spurs, the 4 worst records in the NBA. It's ping pong ball time for those 4 teams. I mentioned how Detroit has been covering numbers. Charlotte has gone under in 10 of its last 12 games. The Pistons have gone over in 3 straight. Prior to that, it was under in 9 in a row. I might actually lean under 217.5 tonight in the Motor City. All right, no college basketball pick for you right there, but there will be some best bets, at least for me, from college hoops. DRS, nod if you agree. That, a strong after a small nod. A best bet coming your way next.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
In the Big Ten, it's the same thing. No offense to you guys. This feels like the Penn State rule. This feels like
This
is a guaranteed Penn State to get in.
We need to
Penn
find
State's
a way to let them in because they can't beat Michigan. They can't beat Ohio State. But
Right.
if we make them a third,
They get in.
This
is the Penn
always
State
going to
rule.
be better than the West half.
Yep.
And that 1 year that Lightning in a Bottle catches on the West half, we'll let them in too because they'll bring people.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
The books are treating the Celtics 4 points better at minimum than maybe every single team in the NBA. And so far, I believe they've covered every game since the break.
The Celtics' strict goal here, anything less than a finals appearance and a finals championship is going to be a failure for the Celtics. They got all the pressure in the world across the board here.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Letting points on the road in college basketball is an absolute landmine. I would not do it. I won't do it the rest of the year. I'm done doing that because it just consistently loses.
I mean, 3 possessions in a 9-point game in which the opposition now is the clock, not the actual team you're facing, right?
Right.
And these guys are taking up shots. I mean, it's just like, that's why it's the NBA.
In-game live, prime time, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live, all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Closing out our 3 hours together, live right here on this Monday on the early line on SportsGrid. I am Ben Stevens. He is Donnie Rightside. Before we get out of here, it is time for a best bet. In my days off, do we not do the SportsGrid app read anymore? That's good to know. We're locked in. We're ready to go on this Monday all across TEL. I wish I would have gotten some news about that. But anyway, before we say farewell, before we say goodbye, Donnie gave you a shrug. What is that best bet going to be? You find out right now and bye. So, Donnie Rightside, tell the people, is it the NHL? Is it maybe some women's basketball, the Big East title between UConn and Georgetown? In the NBA or during conference championship week on the men's side and college hoops as well? What is Donnie Rightside's best bet on this Monday?
Well, I thought we had it worked out. We had no more stingers, no more ad reads, and no more apps to talk about here. Just straight winners here on the final segment, which, again, I gave the good people Creighton on a Friday. They handled their business against Villanova on a Saturday. So now we look forward to a Monday. Talked about this. Riding the hot hand. It's Luka Doncic tonight. It's now a plus 200 price to record a triple-double tonight. That's my best bet tonight. Luka continues his surge here. I don't care if he gets 30. Ben, how about this? 10, 10, and 10. Let's go. We all win. Plus 200. Cash that ticket on Luka tonight. Triple-double.
That would be 7 straight triple-doubles. He has already recorded 6 straight triple-doubles that have included at least 30 points. The first player in NBA history to ever do that. But the bet is just for a triple-double. 10, 10, and 10 would get the job done. Dallas laying 4 on the road. Creighton taking care of business. Up 14, 6.5 minutes left. Hey, the Blue Jays covered a number on the road against Villanova in the regular season finale. SoCon tournament title game. Samford, a 28-5 team in the SoCon this year, is a 10.5-point favorite against East Tennessee State. Samford has the 15th Fastest tempo in college basketball, over 149.5 as Samford punches its ticket to an NCAA tournament. This is March. This is a Monday. We'll see you on a Tuesday, 8 a.m. Eastern, here on the Early Line.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.